The conversation didn't begin with, "How are you?" It began with a verdict. "You withdrawing from Harvard this semester." No preface. No negotiation. A decision already made for me, delivered while I sat on my dorm bed. My laptop balanced on laundry. For a moment, I was certain I'd misheard. My entire life had been an exercise in being the low-maintenance child. Perfect grades, no drama, scholarships to ease the burden. My sister Brooke was the one perpetually near some new crisis. So when my mother stated calmly that I should leave school because Brooke had failed out of hers, the ground beneath me seemed to shift. "She needs a reset," my mother said, as if we were trading shifts at a part-time job. "You can go back next year. Harvard isn't going anywhere. Your sister has nothing." I stared at the green light on my screen, at the lagging video of her face, and understood she was serious. This wasn't a guilt trip. It was an ultimatum. My degree or my family. I said no. Not a shout. Not a speech. Just a single, quiet word. I expected a fight. A messy compromise. Weeks of tense calls. Instead, that was the last normal conversation we ever had. I didn't know then that saying no would get me pushed out of my own life. Or that years later, when my mother sat in a hospital waiting room asking me to save her, that word would echo in my mind. If you want to understand how I got from that dorm room to that waiting room, and why I answered the way I did, you need to hear the whole story. And if you've ever felt the crushing weight of toxic loyalty, you need to pay close attention, because we are dissecting the exact moment love becomes leverage. Before that call, my world was split. There was our actual rented house in Los Angeles, with walls so thin you could hear neighbors arguing on hot nights. And there was the idea of home my mother sold. Loud, close, unbreakably loyal. A family that sticks together even when sticking together meant performing a play where everything was fine. I was Ava, 19, the first in my family to go to a school people recognized. The only reason I ever aimed for a place like Harvard was because an 11th grade teacher circled a test score and said, "You know kids from here can go there too, right?" My mother, Karen, loved boasting about her smart one, but it felt like she was bragging about a lottery ticket that accidentally paid off. My sister Brooke was the opposite. Older, louder, a social magnet who could command a room. My mother called her our wild child, with a tone that was half exasperated, half proud, as if chaos were a personality trait, not a ticking bomb. Brooke's attempt at community college lasted a year and a half. It yielded a handful of credits and a deep, burning shame she masked with jokes. Then came the parade of jobs: server, gym receptionist, an influencer's assistant for 3 chaotic weeks. And somewhere in the struggle, she found online gambling. At first, it blended with everything else on her phone. A flashy app, a notification. "Look," she'd say, shoving her screen at me, grinning. "I just won $50 while you were doing calculus." She showed me the confetti animations, the fake coins raining down. She never showed me the losses. The reality seeped in through small changes. The rainy day jar on the fridge emptied. Unopened bills lingered on the counter. Brooke's voice gained a new, sharp desperation. When asked for gas money, my mother worked as a manager at a mid-tier clothing store, a job that demanded endless smiling and left her with just enough energy to eat, watch half a show, and fall asleep on the couch. She spoke of money like it was weather, a constant, unpredictable force happening to her. "I'm just trying to keep us afloat," she'd say, stirring pasta. "Once Brooke is on her feet, once you graduate, things will get easier." There was a college fund. Not huge, but a tangible chunk of savings she loved mentioning in front of other parents. When I got into Harvard, that account suddenly became real. Financial aid covered much of it, but gaps remained. Travel, books, living costs. My mother filled some from that fund and made sure I knew it. "That money could have been a new car," she'd say, half joking. But she'd also tuck cash into my hand at the airport. "Get something that isn't noodles." The night before I left, she threw a small party. Paper lanterns, Costco snacks, a Bluetooth speaker, fighting traffic noise. People told me to stay humble, to remember where I came from. My mother, misty-eyed, said she was proud. Rook, already drinking, laughed. "We'll see if she remembers us when she's Ivy League and married to a guy named Chad." A joke, but it had an edge. That edge sharpened once I was gone. Brooke's early messages were supportive in her way. Send dorm pics. Is anyone there hot? Then they curdled. When I texted about midterm stress, she replied, must be nice for that to be your biggest problem. When I mentioned my library job, she wrote, I've worked more hours this week than you will all month. Meanwhile, the gambling app notifications bloomed across her screen. She didn't hide them. It's fine, she'd say. I know when to stop. In the universal tone of someone who absolutely does not. Calls home became surreal. My mother would detail Brooke's struggles, unfair tips. A rigged world, then pivot instantly to tell me not to forget to have fun, not to burn out, not to become cold and career-obsessed. The whiplash left me feeling perpetually, quietly wrong. When the clunky health app I built for a class won a campus competition, coming with a modest grant and a boosted aid package, I called my mother. Elated, door sounds buzzed in the background. They're giving you more money? She asked. Actual money? I explained. Some for tuition, some as a stipend. Connections to alums in healthcare. It's a big deal. She let out a long breath. Half relief, half calculation. That's great, baby. Every dollar helps. Maybe now I can stop robbing Peter to pay Paul. She laughed a hollow laugh. I didn't realize that call planted a seed. In her mind, my education was no longer just my future. It was a family resource, a line item on a mental spreadsheet titled Survival. While I was in Cambridge studying algorithms, she was in Los Angeles listening to Brooke's new pitch, One Last Shot. The bar she worked at had new owners. Brooke hated them. She and the other bartenders were convinced they could run it better. We just need capital, she told my mother. We know the crowd. Why work for someone else? My mother had always dreamed of something of her own. If I ever get out of retail, she'd sigh. I'm opening a place where I make the rules. So when Brooke talked about taking over a spot near Sunset, my mother didn't see risk. She saw an exit ramp. By the time she called me with her plan, it wasn't an idea. It was a fully formed narrative, she told herself, until it sounded reasonable. She had printed numbers, hazy projections. She talked about my enrollment like it was a streaming subscription, something we could pause for a season when life got tight. The ultimatum came after I pushed back. After I explained, perhaps too sharply, that my scholarships required full-time status, that taking a year off wasn't a neutral option for someone in my position. I didn't think she'd follow through. I thought she cooled down. I underestimated her fear and how much of it she'd already transferred onto me without saying a word. When you grow up where money is always almost enough, desperation doesn't announce itself. It manifests as practical decisions that make less sense the closer you look. By asking me to withdraw, my mother believed she was redistributing resources. I believed she was asking me to gamble my one shot on my sister's next probable failure. Neither of us said it that clearly. We should have. Maybe it wouldn't have changed the collision. But when she drew that line Harvard on one side, family on the other, it wasn't the moment things broke. It was the moment she finally said aloud what had always been true. In our house, love and sacrifice were so entangled that saying no felt like betrayal. I just didn't know how high the price for yes would have been, or how far she would go when I refused to pay it. A sentence like "you can withdraw" doesn't detonate immediately. It just sits in your skull while you pretend everything is normal. I went to class the next day. I shelved books at the library. My hands moved automatically while my brain replayed her voice. She didn't call. When we finally spoke again days later, it was about a shirt from her store. Employee discount. Wanted for interviews? As if the ultimatum had been a shared dream we'd agreed to forget. I played along. Sure. Thanks. For weeks, we existed in an uncomfortable limbo. She didn't mention dropping out, but cracks appeared. Comments about soaring grocery prices, Brooke's cut hours, the landlord's dramatic rent reminders. Are you okay? I'd ask. We're fine, she'd insist. Just tired. Work hard, right? Her favorite phrase when things were clearly not fine. The first real fracture appeared when I tried to book a Thanksgiving flight. I was comparing prices, hoping she'd offer to split the cost as she always had. I told her the amount. She laughed a short, annoyed sound. Ava, I can't do that right now. Do you know what I'm juggling here? I hesitated. I thought we set aside travel money. That was before rent, car repairs, and your sister's cut hours, she snapped. I'm doing my best. If you want to come home, figure it out. You're the genius, remember? Genius. It didn't sound like a compliment. It sounded like an indictment. I did the mental math. The ticket would wipe out my cushion. Maybe I'll stay here, I said quietly. Lots of people do. The dining hall has a dinner. A heavy pause. Wow, she said. First semester at Harvard, and you're already too good for Thanksgiving. That's not what I said. You just told me you can't help. I said I'm tired, she shot back. I said I'm doing my best, but you hear what you want. You talk like you're visiting from another planet. I'm trying to be practical. You're making excuses. Fine. Stay there. Enjoy your fancy sad campus dinner. Just remember who held everything together, so you could be there. We hung up without, I love you. Thanksgiving passed in quiet, eerie campus halls. I ate bland turkey with other stranded students. I tried not to picture the empty chair with my name on it back home. Our conversations never recovered. They became short, transactional. She asked about grades, but not about learning. She asked if I'd found side gigs, followed by jokes about needing a startup founder in the family. Every mention of money carried a subtle twist of reminder that my education was not fully mine. Bert's messages turned from snarky to silent, then to late-night voice notes. Sometimes nostalgic, remember sneaking cereal at midnight? Sometimes resentful. Must be nice to have money handed to you. Once, just once, she sounded small. I thought I'd be further along. Don't tell Mom. I didn't. Then I woke to a bank alert. Low balance. The shared savings account, the one that still had a few thousand, was nearly empty. A series of withdrawals over the past month. Rent, utilities, payments to a bar vendor. I called my mother. Hey, she said brightly. See the neon sweater pics? Corporate hates me. Did you empty the savings? A pause. Just a beat. I used what we needed. We? That money was for school. School is paid for, she snapped. You have scholarships, grants. Meanwhile, rent is due now. Groceries are due now. Life doesn't wait for your degree, Ava. You could have told me. You could have asked. Asked what? Permission to keep a roof over our heads? You'd have said yes and then had a panic attack. I spared you that. You didn't spare me. You made the decision for me. Again. Not everything is about your autonomy, she said, the word awkward in her mouth. Adults make hard choices. I didn't blow it on vacations. I used it to keep this family from sinking. By using my only safety net, the thing that was supposed to prevent me from dropping out. Nothing's gone wrong, we're stretched thin. You're acting like I stole from a stranger. It's my account too. I put that money there. I can move it. Legally, she was right. Emotionally, it felt like watching someone pack your belongings without asking. So where does it stop? I asked quietly. If I get another grant, is that for the family too? If I work more, does that prove I can handle less support? You're twisting this. You always do when you're scared. You paint me as the villain. I am trying to make this work for all of us. You're at the nicest school in the country because I didn't quit when things got hard. You think I had anyone to lean on at 19? I think you're so used to surviving that you don't notice when you're stepping on me to do it. A long silence. Distant traffic sounds. A checkout scanner's beep. Her voice went flat. If you're going to speak to me like I'm a thief, maybe we need a break from these conversations. Focus on your big, important life. We'll figure ours out. I never said you were a thief. I said I felt blindsided. Same difference. You made your choice, Ava. You stayed there. You picked that. So don't call from your dorm room acting shocked that the rest of us are making choices too. That was our last real conversation. After that, my calls went to voicemail. Our talks became surface level, weather, work, you sound busy. The family group chat disappeared from my phone one day. No notification. Just gone. Removed. I didn't ask why. I didn't learn she'd repurposed my old bedroom until a neighbor mentioned helping her move boxes into my space. I smiled and lied. I'll be home soon. Even though I knew that version of home had sealed shut behind me. It wasn't cinematic. No slammed door. No screamed excommunication. Just a series of small, practical edits to a life I was no longer in. So, I leaned into the only thing I controlled. I took extra library shifts. I built clunky tools for local clinics. I cleaned up data for drowning grad students. I kept tweaking my health app, not to change the world, but because it was something that belonged solely to me. Sometimes, in weak moments, I'd hover over my mother's contact. I picture her at the kitchen table, rubbing her temples, a stack of bills beside her. I'd consider calling, offering to send what little I had, saying, let's start over. Then I'd remember the empty account, the plane ticket she couldn't help buy, the way she'd said, you made your choice, as if I'd walked away from a party, not a building she'd set on fire. I always did the same thing. I locked my phone, put it face down, and opened my laptop. If no one was left to catch me, I had to become an expert at building nets. Summer arrived while I was busy pretending. Finals, deadlines, hollow goodbyes in hallways. I told people I wasn't going home because flights were expensive. True, but incomplete. The full truth was that I could feel something waiting in Los Angeles, and I wasn't ready to face it. My mother solved that. She came to me. She didn't announce her arrival. A text, you on campus. 20 minutes later, she stood outside the science building, squinting at the stone as if judging it. She looked thinner, new gray strands at her temples, but her hug was the same familiar, tight grip that once made me feel safe. For a second, I forgot we were in the middle of a war. We went to an off-campus coffee shop. She refused to let me pay absurd cafeteria prices. We sat by a window. She watched students speed walk past. Does everyone here move that fast? She asked. Perpetually 10 minutes behind. She smiled faintly. It faded when our drinks arrived, leaving only steam and silence. So, she began, stirring sugar without looking at me. I've been thinking, since we last talked. My stomach tightened. About everything, she said. Brooke, you, this. She gestured vaguely at my campus life. I probably didn't say things right on the phone. The closest she'd come to an apology. I need you to hear me out before you decide I'm a monster. Okay, I said. I'm listening. She took a deep breath. Your sister isn't built like you. You've carried yourself since you were 12. You got yourself here. You land on your feet. Brooke doesn't. When she falls, she hits concrete. That's not my responsibility. She laid out the last few months, the eviction threats, pinned utility notices, the bar scheme turning desperate. She got in deeper with those apps, my mother said quietly. I didn't realize. I thought it was a phase. She said phase with palpable shame. She started borrowing. From me, from friends, from people you don't want to owe. When I found out how much, I almost got sick. And she's not evil, Ava. She's not trying to ruin lives. She's just stuck, scared, and bad at being scared. So you decided to fix it, I said. Like you always do. What do you want me to say? She snapped, then rubbed her forehead. Yes, I found a way that doesn't end with her in a ditch. There's a bar for sale. Owner wants out fast due to a divorce. Cheap lease, some debt. It's a mess, but it's workable. Mom, owning a bar is not a rehab plan. It's a job, she insisted. It's structure. She's good with people. I handle the books. We bring in one real partner. We turn it around. It's not glamorous, but it's ours. I could see the future she painted. Her name on a lease. Brooke behind a bar they owned. Me visiting proudly. A family business. Where do I fit in? I asked. She met my eyes. You nowhere. We can't do it without capital. The bank laughed. My credit's tapped. Brooks is wrecked. The only asset we have that anyone cares about is you. I'm not an asset. I'm a person. You're both, she shot back. You're my kid, and you're a walking success story that opens doors. You have grant money, stipends, connections. You have a name on a letter that makes people sit up. You could take a leave, 1 year. Come home. Help us launch this. Put stability under us. Then go back and finish. You'll still be the girl from Harvard. They don't forget you for helping your family. That's not how it works, I said. My aid, my housing, my visa all tied to full-time status. If I leave, I might not get back in. And even if I do, I'd be starting from behind. You're 19, she said, as if that settled it. You have time. Your sister doesn't. I work 50 hours a week and still fall asleep doing math on receipts. I can't hold this together alone anymore. I need real help, not phone calls. And I'm proud of you. The words landed like stones, exhaustion and fear beneath them. It would have been easier if she'd come as a villain screaming, blaming, making hatred simple. Instead, she sat in a cheap cafe chair, looking like someone whose world had been shrinking for so long she'd lost track of the pressure source. You're asking me to gamble my one way out, I said softly, on the same person who's proven she can't handle money. I'm asking you to trust us, to trust me, to believe that if we get one solid shot, we won't blow it. I didn't raise you alone just for you to turn your back when it's not convenient. You didn't raise me alone, I said. I was there too. I worked. I studied. I kept my head down. I did my part. And now I'm asking you to do more, she said. Because you can. Because you're strong enough. Because your sister isn't. Silence hung between us, filled by the low buzz of other conversations. I thought of her closing the store late, of the college fund she'd slowly built, of her bragging about me. I also thought of the emptied account, the shift from your money to our money, the decisions made for me in silence. I want to know me, the daughter who said yes, who could fix everything with one grand sacrifice and never resent it. But the future she described didn't end with me seamlessly returning to campus. It ended with me stuck in LA, a half-finished degree, explaining to future employers why I'd left an elite school to run a failing bar. I'm not withdrawing, I said finally. Not for a semester. Not for a year. I'm sorry things are hard. Truly. But this, I gestured between us, between Cambridge and LA, between possibility and panic. This is the one thing I've ever had that isn't built on denial. I can't give it up. I won't. She stared, testing for bluff. When she found none, her face closed off. You know what hurts most, she said. It's not that you're saying no. It's that you don't even sound conflicted. I am conflicted. I just don't think my conflict should cost me my future. Your future doesn't mean much if your family falls apart. I've been falling since you emptied that account without telling me, I said, sharper than intended. You just didn't hear the splash, because it happened on this side of the country. Her jaw clenched. For a second, I thought she might cry. Instead, she pulled a folded stack of papers from her bag and pushed them across the table. What's this? Reality, she said. Lease terms. Debt numbers. What we owe. What it takes to stop the collapse. I thought if you saw it, you'd understand. I scanned the pages. The numbers were worse than I'd imagined. Past due notices, fees, a high-interest loan, margin notes scribbled, call again, ask for extension, last warning. This isn't a plan, I said quietly. It's a list of fires. It's what life looks like when you don't have Harvard backing you up, she said. Out there, people juggle. They rob Peter to pay Paul. They hustle. I did it for you your whole life. All I'm asking is that you do it for us once. Once is never just once, I said. You know that. She looked at me a long time, memorizing my face. When she spoke again, Her calm tone scared me more than any yell. If you walk away from this, if you choose your program, your at your new life over the people who raised you, don't call me later acting surprised when there's nothing left to come back to. Are you saying I'm not welcome? I'm saying you can't have it both ways. You don't get to treat us as optional extras and expect us to be waiting when it's convenient. We need you now. If you're not with us now, then. She let the sentence hang. She stood. For a moment, I thought she might touch me a shoulder, a kiss goodbye, some acknowledgments of shared pain. Instead, she picked up her bag, smoothed her blouse, and said, "Send me your schedule if you change your mind before the withdrawal deadline. After that, I guess we'll see." Then she walked out. I sat with the papers and cold coffee, watching her cross the street through the window. She never looked back. A week later, my phone line was dropped from the family plan. The shared savings account was formally closed. The house key on my ring became a piece of scrap metal. The group chat displayed a gray line. "You are no longer in this conversation." No drama. Just a quiet, thorough edit of a life I was no longer in. I didn't fight. I went to the campus job board instead. If I was on my own, I needed to learn how to survive like it. What finally pulled me back toward LA wasn't guilt. It was a forgotten calendar reminder. Call Mom. But My phone announced it while I was in the glass meeting room in Cambridge. Reviewing bug reports for my health app, now a research project. I stared at the notification until it faded. 2 years had passed since the cafe. I'd finished sophomore and junior year without visiting. We'd exchanged 3 emails, all logistics, tax forms, misplaced mail, a question about childhood belongings. I said yes to retrieving them. She replied, "Too late. Donated." In that quiet, my life moved on. The ugly class app became my thesis, then a collaboration, then a pilot with community clinics. No magazine covers, just small wins. A study showing earlier risk detection, a grant for servers, a contract after graduation, letting me keep building. I stayed in Boston, sharing a small apartment. Harvard became a line on my resume. Sometimes I think of that cafe and feel anger and relief intertwined. If I'd gone back, none of this would exist. I checked on them digitally. Brooke's Instagram showed a real bar near Hollywood, blurry stage shots, chalkboard specials, selfies captioned, "Building from the ground up." My mom appeared in backgrounds, wiping tables with that tired retail smile. Then gaps, weeks without posts. Many captions, landlord drama. One bad month from losing everything. I'd scroll, close the app, and tell myself it wasn't my business. I'd made my choice. Then, a few years after graduation, my phone lit up with an unknown LA number. I almost didn't answer. Ava, a voice I hadn't heard in years, older, rougher. "Brooke." Silence from me. "You're really going to hang up on your sister?" she said. "That's cold, even for Harvard." The old nickname jolted me. "What do you want, Brooke? How did you get this number? Relax. I asked around. You're not that hard to find. Plus, you're not exactly low profile. Why are you calling?" A rustling sound, like a plastic chair. Her voice lost its edge. "It's Mom. She's sick." The room tilted. I sat down. What kind of sick? Fragments poured out. Hospital tests. A clinical word attached to the woman who used to fall asleep on the couch. Chemo. Complications. Insurance that covered some. Shrugged at others. "They caught it late," Brooke said. She ignored symptoms. You know how she is. My mind switched to clinical mode. I asked questions. Brooke's answers were imprecise but painted a picture. Serious, expensive, messy. "Why call me?" I asked quietly. "Because you work in this world now," she said, as if it were obvious. "Your health app thing. You know doctors, systems. You can get us into a program, a discount, something. She needs surgery, then therapy. The good stuff isn't covered. We've seen the articles. Local girl uses AI to change healthcare. I'm hearing you have contacts who could help my mother not die." She said, "My mother," like we were discussing a stranger. "I'm not a doctor. I write code. You write code for doctors, she shot back. Don't play dumb. We need help. Did she ask you to call? No, she didn't want to bother you. Says you have your own life. Then she stares at the wall for an hour. I got tired of watching. That messy blend of resentment and protectiveness. Half accusation, half loyalty. What do you actually want from me? I asked. Be specific. There's a clinical trial, a newer therapy, wait lists, paperwork, politics. We thought maybe you could talk to someone, use your email signature, put in a word. If there's a charity fund with your name on it, maybe they'll listen. She softened. And if there's nothing you can do, tell me straight so I stop promising her miracles. The honesty disarmed me. How bad is it financially? A humorless laugh. We lost the bar. Rent's up. Mom's picking up extra shifts. I'm piecing things together. We're behind. If we don't get help, she gets the cheapest option and we hope it's enough. On my desk, a sticky note reminded me to call a clinic about our pilot contract. On my screen, a slide deck titled Early Detection in Resource-Constrained Settings blinked. The distance between my work and my family vanished. Does she know you're calling? Not yet. She's stubborn. But if you say you'll try, I'll tell her. She misses you. There's always a chair pulled out for you in her head that you never sit in. I closed my eyes. It would have been easier if she'd been purely manipulative. Instead, I heard someone scared and in over her head, grabbing the only lever left. I can't promise anything, I said finally. I can't magically get her into a perfect program. But I can look at her records. Ask people to explain options. It's about insurance, income, location. I can't override that with a call. So you'll read some stuff and get back to us? I'll meet you, I said, surprising myself. I'll be in San Francisco next month for a conference. If you can get her there, we'll sit down. I'm not doing this over the phone. I'll cover travel if needed. But if I'm putting my name on the line, I look you both in the eye first. A long pause. She won't like it. She's proud. Yeah, I know where I got that from. A breath that almost became a laugh. Fine, text me details. I'll get her there. After hanging up, I sat in the quiet office for a long time. Court boards with patient feedback. An email draft to a doctor asking for a plain English explanation for a family friend. The old currents tugged. Fix. Smoon. Sacrifice. But I also remembered the cafe, the stack of debts, the request to trade my future. This time, if I walked into their storm, I'd do it with my eyes open. The day they came to San Francisco, the fog was soft. I sat in a hotel lobby corner, my conference badge still around my neck, rereading test results Brooke had finally sent. I'd had 2 doctors review them. The consensus, serious, not hopeless. Surgery plus combination therapy. Expensive if you were already drowning. They walked in. Time had worked on them. My mother moved slower, a hand on a rolling suitcase for an afternoon meeting. Brooke's hair was shorter, grown out maintenance abandoned months ago. For an absurd moment, I thought they were just visiting. We'd argue about where to eat. Then my mother saw me. Her face folded. You look different, she said. Older. You look the same, I lied. We found a quiet seating area, neutral tones, expensive plants. Public enough to prevent meltdowns, private enough not to whisper. My mother sat carefully, a hand at her side. Brooke dropped beside her with the heaviness of sleeplessness. Silence. Brooke clapped once. Okay, you've seen the papers. Talk to your doctor friends. What's the verdict? A magic door or not? No magic door, I said. Options exist. Some good, some less. But no secret VIP entrance where I say a password and it's free and easy. My mother gave a soft, humorless laugh. Would have been nice. I told her not to expect miracles, Brooke said, chin jutting. But she kept saying, Ava's smart. She'll know. I slid a treatment summary across the table. Here's the situation. Your first hospital recommended surgery and therapy. Partially covered. Leads a big, out-of-pocket gap. My mother nodded. They gave us a number. Might as well be a phone number to Mars. There are larger hospitals with trials, I continued. You might qualify. Trials sometimes cover more costs, but you give up control. There are wait lists. Travel. It's a lot. But you know people there, Brooke cut in. That's the point. You can get her noticed. I can ask questions, I said. Email doctors for plain English explanations. Is this place reputable? Are there charity funds? I've started that. But I can't do this for free. She's my mother. That's not how it works. They have criteria. If they bend rules, it won't be because a mid-level tech person sent a sad paragraph. My mother looked at the paper, not reading. So you're saying there's nothing you can do? I'm saying there are things I will do and things I won't. I said carefully. I'll help you understand options. Fill out forms. Find charities. Get on lists. I'll contribute some money, what I can afford without wrecking my own stability. What I won't do is become the bank of last resort, or guarantee that no matter your choices, I'll keep writing checks. Nobody asked for checks, plural, Brooke muttered. We asked for help with this, once. I didn't answer. Not yet. A second folder was in my bag. I knew opening it would tilt everything irreversibly. My mother noticed its edge. What's that? More medical stuff? No, I said. Something else. But first, I need to ask you something. I looked at her. Do you understand why it was so hard to say yes last time you asked me to give something up? Our mouth tightened. We're doing this now? I thought we came to talk about treatment, not rehash fights. They're connected, I said. You talk about family as automatic, as if I'm broken for wanting boundaries. 8 years ago, you asked me to stake my education on a business plan that wasn't a plan. When I said no, you acted like I'd betrayed you. I need to know if you grasp how big that was. Because if you don't, today sits on the same broken foundation. She rubbed her forehead. I was scared. That's not an excuse. It's the truth. The bar, the debts, your sister spiraling. I thought one more crisis, then I'd breathe. And you were there. You had options. A golden ticket I never had. It felt selfish watching you hold it while everything collapsed. So you punished me. I thought you'd come home, she whispered. Honestly, I thought you'd get scared or miss us or realize how hard it is alone and you'd come back. I didn't think you'd disappear into that place and build a whole life without us. I didn't disappear. You closed the door. A long quiet. Brooke shifted, craving a cigarette. Okay, great, she finally said. Everyone's hurt. Can we get back to Mom's surgery? I looked at her. The tiredness in her face was different. Not age, but consequences catching up. We will. But there's something I have to put on the table first. I pulled the second folder. My name was on the front, printed by my company's compliance team. A few months ago, I began. I got an email from a bank I've never used. They wanted details about a business application tied to my name. I thought it was spam. Then they sent documentation. I opened the folder, turned a page toward them. Application forms. A bar in LA I recognize from Brooke's old posts. My name typed as co-owner. A forged signature approximating mine. Someone applied for a line of credit using my credentials, I said. They attached a fake letter on my company's letterhead saying we were backing a hospitality tech pilot. It wasn't a huge sum, but enough to trigger fraud alerts, enough that my legal team got involved. My mother stared, color draining. Please tell me this is a mistake, that they used your name as an example. It wasn't a mistake, I said, looking at Brooke. They traced the IP, the email, the login. All point to the same apartment in LA, the same devices, the same recovery number. Brooke's jaw clenched. You spying on me now? Reading my Wi-Fi history? A bank almost attached my name to a loan I didn't authorize. I said, my company has investors who panic at the word fraud near the CEO. I didn't go looking for you in their systems, Brooke. You dragged me in when you typed my name on that form. My mother turned to Brooke, voice shaking. Tell me you didn't. Tell me it's a mix-up, please. Brooke didn't answer immediately. I saw all her masks flicker charm. Victim, comedian, then fall away. Only tiredness remained. I thought we could fix it before anyone noticed, she said finally. The bar needed cash. The landlord was at our throats. Vendors were cutting us off. Mom was working herself into the ground. Everything was one bad week from collapse. And there you were, your name all over the internet next to words like innovation and funding. I thought if I used your name for a bridge loan, you'd thank me later when we paid it back, and Mom never knew. You were going to tell me after? I asked. When a reporter called about my new nightlife venture, she winced. I knew you'd be mad. I also knew if I asked, you'd say no. And I was out of people who hadn't already said no. My mother sagged back as if a string had been cut. You risked her job, her reputation. After everything. I risked a bank's money, Brooke shot back, then instantly regretted it. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was trying to keep us from drowning. You keep saying drowning, I said quietly, but you're the one jumping back in the water every time someone throws a rope. No one answered. Hotel lobby. Sounds filled the void. Suitcases, murmurs, and espresso machines hiss. So what happens now? My mother asked, eyes on the folder. Are you pressing charges? I swallowed. This was the part I'd agonize over. The bank is deciding. They know I didn't authorize it. My legal team gave them everything. They're seeing if it's part of a pattern. I won't lie to protect you if they ask for a statement. But I'm not calling the police myself. I'm not interested in making your life worse for sport. I'm interested in getting my name off anything that isn't mine. You'll stand back and let them do whatever to my kid? My mother demanded. The old flash decades of context ignored, zooming straight to you're hurting us. I'm not standing back. I'm stepping out of a mess I didn't make. There's a difference. Brooke let out a shaky breath. They'll look at everything. Not just this. Every late payment, every dumb decision, under a microscope. That's how accountability works, I said, softer than she deserved. You don't get judged solely on the moment you got caught. My mother pressed her temples. This is why I didn't want to tell you. Every time we come to you is a lecture, a trial. You didn't come to me, I reminded her. Your name came up when someone else started asking questions. You're here because Brooke called, because you need something. Again, she flinched, then straightened, mustering dignity. Fine, we're clear. You're not our safety net. You won't lie. You won't sacrifice. Message received. But I'm sitting here with a diagnosis that terrifies me. Are you really going to look at me and say there's nothing you'll do? All my versions collided. The teen craving her approval. The 20-year-old sleeping in the library. The woman in conference rooms discussing trial protocols. The person who learned that love without boundaries is just a slower way to drown. I'll help you fill out charity applications, I said. I'll connect you with a patient advocate who fights insurance. I'll put money toward the gap what I can afford without wrecking my own stability. I'll get a second opinion. But I will not empty my savings, take loans, or sign my company's name to any of this. I'm not building my future on the same hole you're standing in. Not again. She searched my face for a crack. You're really okay with that? Knowing I might not get the best treatment because you drew a line? My throat tightened. No, I'm not okay with any of this. But, as La Lisa, like a real me. Not and then them ananas. I can care about you and not burn my life down for you. Those things aren't mutually exclusive, no matter how many times you've insisted they are. Brooke shook her head in disgust. You sound like a podcast. Boundaries, choices, accountability. Must be nice to have all the right words. It's not about having the right words, I said. It's about finally believing I have the right to use them. We discussed logistics after that, a surreal shift to hospital social workers and grant deadlines amid the charged silence. I wrote numbers, circled forms, gave the advocate's contact. When it was over, my mother folded the papers carefully into her bag. She looked worn thin. You know, she said, standing slowly, when you were little and sick, I'd sleep on the floor by your bed. Your father thought I was crazy. She's fine, he'd say. She's breathing. Come to bed. But I needed to be there, just in case. She met my eyes. I don't expect you to sleep on the floor by my bed. I just thought when it really counted, you'd show up the way I did. I am showing up, I said. Just not in the way you're used to. She nodded, once disagreeing, but too tired to argue. Brooke hugged me abruptly. Stiff, habitual. They'll make an example of me if the bank thing goes south, she muttered against my shoulder. You know that. They'll follow the evidence, I replied. That's all I know. And you won't get in the way? You won't fix it. I pulled back to look at her. I won't add weight to the scale, but I'm done putting my thumb on it in your favor when you keep jumping onto the wrong side. She huffed a laugh that almost sounded like acceptance. Guess I finally ran out of extra lives. Took longer than it should have. They left through the lobby doors, swallowed by the city crowd. An irrational urge hit me, run after them. Say, forget it. I'll cover everything. I'll make it easy. Instead, I sat, opened my laptop, and sent 2 emails. One to the advocate confirming I pay her fee. One to my lawyer confirming I would not authorize any settlement implying shared responsibility. No cinematic line. No slam door. Just deliberate choices made in full awareness of what they would and would not fix. For the first time in years, I wasn't acting from panic, obligation, or instinct. I was choosing where my responsibility ended. It didn't feel like victory, it felt like grief. But underneath, quieter and steadier, it felt like the beginning of an answer to that old, impossible question. What kind of person chooses her own future over her family? Sitting there, watching the emails whoosh away, I realized I finally had my answer. The investigation didn't become a headline. It was small, bureaucratic. The bank pursued it. My legal updates were clipped. Confirmed non-involvement. Action against primary applicant. You may be a witness. The video call with the bank's lawyer was boring. They had me verify I hadn't authorized a loan, invested in a bar, or written the letter. The lawyer concluded, "We appreciate your cooperation, Miss Price," in a tone utterly indifferent to the fact that the primary applicant was my sister. Brooke took a deal. Probation. Restitution. No prison if she didn't screw up. She texted the news without greeting or context. I stared at the words. Relief and anger tangled. I didn't want her incarcerated. I also didn't want her to believe there were no consequences. Probation and a payment plan she couldn't afford felt like a messy middle ground. I typed, "I'm glad you're not going to jail 3 times," and deleted it. Finally, I wrote, "I hope you take it seriously." She didn't reply. Efficient silence resounded. My mother's treatment moved slowly, mired in the frustrating logistics of under-resourced care. The advocate I'd found was perfect, stubborn, direct, unafraid to argue. She got my mother into a decent hospital's program, not the miracle clinic, but a solid facility. They patched together a plan from insurance, charity funds, and grants buried in paperwork. I covered a financial gap that would have wiped me out if I hadn't planned for it. It didn't feel heroic. It felt like paying a bill. My mother texted after her first therapy round. "They say it's going okay so far. Thanks for the advocate. She's intense." I stared at that message. The closest she'd come to acknowledging my help had value. I replied, "Glad you have a good team. Hope you're resting." A thumbs up emoji came back. The same one she'd used for my test scores in high school. Months passed. Life split into 2 tracks. Track 1, work. Whiteboard diagrams. Debates about model ethics with colleagues who said operationalization and scale like normal words. Our app expanded to more clinics. We pulled another modest study. I spoke at conferences wearing lanyards I'd forget for hours. Track 2, quiet, messy, ever-present. My mother navigating treatment. Occasional texts, blood work good, side effects rough. Another scan soon. Sometimes weeks of silence, then news from the advocate of hospital complications. Brooke floated in the background. The advocates mentioned her. She comes to appointments, scrolls her phone, argues with billing. She's a lot. But she loves her mother. That's obvious. Not a compliment, not quite a criticism. I didn't visit. It wasn't a stated rule, just a line my instincts wouldn't let me cross. I sent money when I could, filled out forms, translated medical jargon. I did not sit by the bed. I did not re-enter the role of emotional shock absorber. Guilt visited anyway. When a colleague complained about a pushy parent, at least yours calls. When a study patient mentioned their child driving them to every appointment. When I left the emergency contact line blank on a form. I started speaking about it. Not to them, to my therapist first. She said, "You keep saying punishment like you're the judge. What if it's not punishment? What if it's consequences?" Later, to others, not a viral confession. A panel on healthcare ethics where I mentioned my interest in access wasn't abstract. A podcast episode about coming from a family without a safety net and how that warps your sense of obligation. The story wasn't revenge. I didn't list every wound. I talked about patterns, about growing up believing family means people you're never allowed to disappoint, even when disappointing them is the only path to survival. I didn't expect an audience, but the episode found one. My inbox filled with eerily familiar messages. My parents emptied my tuition account. I went anyway. I still feel guilty. My sister used my name for a lease. When it failed, they blamed me. Over and over, money, obligation, help that morphs into permanent debt. I didn't start a foundation, but I built a small, honest resource page on our company site off the main navigation. Links to patient advocates, low-cost legal aid, financial literacy tools, mental health resources. A note at the bottom, if you grew up feeling responsible for fixing everything, this is for you. Not revenge. A map made from my mess. The closest I came to seeing my mother again was an almost visit a year into her treatment. I was in LA for work. The care facility was 15 minutes away. I'd looked it up immediately after booking my flight, then pretended I hadn't. After my meeting, I sat in a rental car in a strip mall lot, engine off, staring at the directions. 15 minutes, 6 turns, 1 decision. I pictured the pale lobby, the visitor sticker, her face seeing me, the apologies that might or might not come, the old arguments resurrected. Her saying, "I knew you'd come." I thought about stepping back into the circle I'd fought so hard to leave. I sat until the car grew hot. Then I started the engine and drove to my hotel. I didn't visit. I didn't text that I was near. On the flight home, I waited for the regret I'd been warned would come. It didn't. Not in the expected way. Instead, a dull ache and a stubborn clarity. I could care without erasing what she'd done. I could hope her treatment worked without vowing to hold her hand in every waiting room. I could mourn what we didn't have without trying to build it from rubble. Sometimes people ask if I've forgiven my family. The word feels wrong, like wiping a slate clean, pretending the ledger never existed. I usually say this. I understand them better now. I understand how fear and scarcity twisted my mother's view of love. I understand how shame and insecurity drove Brooke to hurt everyone, including herself. Understanding doesn't mean I want them back in my life as they were. It just means I don't have to carry them like a live wire anymore. My mother once told me, as a prophecy, that choosing Harvard over family was something I'd regret forever. I think about that on quiet nights. The laptop glow my only light. Do I regret it? I regret that those were the choices. I regret that love and obligation were so tangled that any move towards self-preservation felt like betrayal. But when I do not regret the moment I finally said, I won't trade my future for someone else's second chance. If there's a lesson here, a reason I keep saying yes to telling this story, it's this. Choosing yourself is not abandonment. Sometimes it's the only way to stop everyone from falling into the same hole. Again and again. You are not evil for wanting a life not built on constant emergency. You are not selfish for drawing a line where your responsibility ends. And if someone tells you you'll regret not setting yourself on fire to keep them warm, don't believe them. Your future is not a currency they are entitled to spend.